So I wanted to make this short clip. I was trying to talk on the phone and they're making me shit every morning, and I couldn't even finish my conversation or ask the right question in any kind of good way because they press the button to make me shit, and I'm literally like I can't even talk. And it's the minute that I'm just trying to ask a simple question to a couple of different stores. But you know, over the last couple of days, I've been thinking off and on about this, and I think, you know, I've talked about this before. I have no idea if this is the case, whoever the professionals are. I think, and Mikayla, I don't know if you're able to watch this video, this directly affects my biological father if he's still alive as well. I'm beginning to think that Marco and his twin, the biological father isn't Lucio, which I've said before. I think it's for some reason, I could be wrong, I don't know, I still don't know the truth about this. If the biological father is someone that's related to Kenneth Cooper at the radio station, David is someone who lived with him all throughout the teenage years, and he said that his mother died. That's what he told me. And this is what's so disturbing about this, because David told me, and when I went to Kenneth's apartment together, and Kenneth used to always saying that David's mother committed suicide when he was very young. He was somewhere in his teens when his mom committed suicide, and that's why he was basically orphaned or whatever, and he lived with Sarah and Ken Cooper since he was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 years old. But if you look at David, his face and his structure, he looks a lot kind of like he could be related to Marco. So I had no idea who the biological father is, but I could tell you this. My mother, who used to talk about her personal life to me and all these things, it's 100% rape. I know that nobody's going to want to believe me. They're going to change my words. They're going to beat me, and they're using the psychologists to do that right now. But that's what I have to say about my mother. 100%. For someone to get involved that is anywhere on the Cooper family side in a relationship and have children with my mother is the highest peak of disrespect and prostitution and guttering my mother that would have came from Sarah Cooper, would have came from Kenneth. Because Kenneth and David are the ones that would have done malicious. Because the reason I say this also is because whenever I went to one Thanksgiving over in my early 20s, I was 22 years old when I went on Thanksgiving with Julian, and I went there once, and when I went there, I noticed that when I got back to my apartment, David and Kenneth came to my apartment with Julian, because Julian went in the car. Julian went in the car with David and Kenneth, and when they came back, I sort of felt that Julian was sort of merging with David and didn't really understand him very well. Like, I don't know, it was kind of weird, like he was his brother. So I say it because I think it's important for whoever wants to look into this. I have no idea any of this, who the biological father is still to this day. But I think it's important to say because it completely changes the game of everything, of the amount of hatred and magnitude to 10 times what I thought it was before. If it turns out that someone on the biological father on that side, 100% rape. They raped my mother. If my mother got pregnant by someone, 100% manipulation and rape. I know my mother. This is not because I don't want my mother to have other children. This is not because I don't believe I'm picking out the person for my mother to have a relationship. I know my mother. I understand her, what she told me. Not only she said she didn't want to have any other kids, she despised that entire family. Like, even whenever even whenever my mom didn't even want Frankie to go hang out with Kenneth or me to hang out with Kenneth when I was a kid. So that's what I have to say about this. It is 20 years too late, but all I can say is it would change the game of how much hatred was placed on my family and prostitution. 100%. 100%. I know my mother, they're going to change the story to help protect Sarah, because the Kim Kardashians, I think they're involved, and they said a lot of personal things, like a lot of personal things that someone is feeding them. I don't know who or what is going on. I don't know who has the power of attorney. I think they do, maybe. I don't know. But like I said, I think it's important. 100% rape. I don't care really. I mean, 100% prostitution and rape to my mother. Forced her to have sex and make sure she is pregnant. I'm going to take the house and kids and take over Hector and Frankie in the house and wipe out Raymond and help Sarah and Ken. Because Kenneth, the magnitude of what Kenneth and David did to me and what they said, magnitudes of 10 times hatred and attacks they did to me this is total betrayal, and betrayal at a scale of like, it's just rape. I know what I'm telling you. I'm not saying this because I want to pick out the person my mom's going to get in a relationship. My mother has mental disability, like severe mental disabilities. I know what I'm telling you. I'm not saying this because I don't believe my mother. I believe my mother deserves someone in her life. But I can tell you this, 100% rape. 100%. They raped her. I wouldn't say that they physically raped her, like they pinned her ass down. She got scared and she opened up. That's why. 100%. Because my mother doesn't understand life this way, but my mother understands that if you gave her a house or you were putting her investigation, then she feels that she has to do that because that's what you're going to do to her, and that's what you gave her. You gave her a child that she already gave back, so she has to do this. Which even magnetizes the amount of hatred they did to my biological father. And what this also says about Lucio is if he ended up having sex with, if he's not the biological father, then that means 100% even more that he raped my mother. Because when he showed up at our house, and I talked about that, I hit the wall because my mother had just gotten ran over by a forklift. And I got mad because I was like, what do you, I could, not only I can hear them, and I think Julian could, you couldn't hear moaning or anything, you can just hear the bed, moving, having sex. But the idea that she was on drugs because of the morphine or whatever, and her leg was ran over, and she literally still had that metal bars all over her leg. And I've talked about this before, where I had hit the wall to make sure that, not make sure, but I was like, what the hell? My mother just got ran over by a forklift. It was like 2 or 3 days after she got ran over by a forklift, and she was highly drugged on these drugs. And it's one of the scariest moments I've ever seen my mother on drugs, ever in my life. It's probably the most frightening I'd ever seen when I saw my mother on drugs, even if it was prescription medication, because my mother doesn't do none of that. But that's what I have to say about that. People can say what they want. They're going to brainwash me. They're going to beat me. They're going to say, oh, well, this psychology, we're going to help. Oh, time passed. Well, that's what they did. That's exactly what they did. No one is going to stop the president. No one is going to stop anybody and punish them. Nobody's going to say anything. Nobody. They're just going to make anything into what they want. Nobody's going to get punished for it. They raped my mother. They did this for a reason, and they ended up getting twins for it. So it hasn't, for me personally, it has nothing to do with me wanting my mother, not believing I'm supposed to choose the person. That's not what I'm doing for her. I'm doing this as her son, but they're completely cutting me off to get away with raping and selling my mother for sex. That's what exactly, and everyone's taking advantage of it, and then poisoning me and beating me because they know that I'm her son. and they know that they already have control over her, and 20 years goes by, and then, because what this does is that's why my biological father would have shown up, because if he showed up and they let him know some of the information of what was going on, and they find out that he had a kid, like he had that my mother had a kid with another guy that was on Cooper's side, that would have made all the attention to say why they would have bashed him. This is the hatred. The hatred that they would have used in life is at an all-time high. 100% rape on my mother. Makes reason why Kenneth and David attacked my biological father. They were talking mad shit about him. I was there when they were talking about, and they were like, "Oh, I got the money, I got the house. Oh, but that's right. Hector, biological father, has a daughter that died. We'll let him off the hook this time." Like, they were behaving like they were completely under my mother's control and completely attached, and poisoned the shit out of me mentally and words. I can never express this enough to Mikayla. In this overall picture, what I have to say, because this is important for Mikayla, I don't know if Mikayla has a degree or not, save yourself. Because the nightmare and the horrible pain that you're going to cause fucking with a police officer family like that, the hatred and pain that's been caused around your family is because of that. It's because you don't understand how some families are so powerful and getting other people to harm you and get away with that no one will ever stop them. No one ever will. As far as I can probably think of, his first thing is, for Mikayla, I think knowing this information, even if you wanted to or you can't, is to save yourself. You have no idea the amount of pain and suffering and malicious attacks that were happening at a magnitude that not only you can't do anything, it's out of your own safety. Do you think that you're going to have courage to stand up against any of them or the psychologist, because they're on their side? That's all they did. You're not going to touch the president. You're not going to be able to at all 100%. These are people, they get everything and they laugh. And it's a joke. And they justify it by force. Beatings, incarceration, stealing, and threats. None of it has to do with justice, God, in any kind of way, morally good. Nothing. They just get what they want. Remember what they did to me. I was the one on the streets. I was the one that got the tickets. I was the one that did all the work. I was the one that was raped. I was the one that was threatened. I was the one that was attacked by the entire society. So, if that ends up being, I'm not going to go into conclusions, but that's all I have to say. It's 100% forced rape. 100%. 100% forced. We're going to put some kids in you, and that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to fuck you until I get what I want. 100%. Because I know my mother. My mother said not only she didn't want any more kids, but my mother's character and how she is as a person and how she described so many events. Terror, scared. Scared, so she just does it just because she's not only being forced through Lucio, and then he ends up raping her, but all the other guys, all the other people that are showing up for control and power. That's exactly what it is. They know they all have to target me because I was the only one protecting my mother. I'm 100%. That's why they went after me, because I was the only one to defend my mother. That was the only person. And now that they've let in that they're white, that's why. They're going to play, I just, at a magnitude, I just can't express the amount of hatred that that is. The amount of persecution against me and my mother that would have been related to, if it's someone from David's family or Kent Cooper's side, can never express us enough of the amount of hatred, because it goes against Frankie and Julian when we grew up. But Julian doesn't have a good moral health, mental state. He has a really bad one. But 100% rape, forced, I tell you what to do. I'll steal it through sex. Take Hector out the picture. White supremacy. That's 100%. I could never express that. I know what I'm telling you. They're going to use their psychology to do this to my mother, and they did. And it's 20 years later.